for Black America, it's just another year. You knew the disrespect by your elected puppeteers, but let me show you how to persevere.
IG is coming in right now. Got some music going. If you're wondering what we're listening to, we're listening to Jodeci. Come and Talk to Me off of my Forever My Lady album from 1991. Nice little bop. Yeah. What's up, IG? I see y'all coming in. Sing it, video.
People say, "Oh, this is my jam."
Yeah. No, we talking relationships today, so we had to bring out the songs for the lovers, right?
A lot of people born off of this. Created off of this song right here.
We got an exciting show for you guys today. We got the Hayters in the building. We got to show the shirts. We're going to talk about those shirts too. Yeah. We got Anthony and Vicky Hayters. So excited about this conversation. We've been advertising this all week. We're going to get into relationships, so have your questions ready. All right? This is going to be great. Yeah. It's your boy, Jay DaCosta. Katniss is sitting right here off to the side. Together we are the Nitty Gritty. Look, guys, we're excited about this show today. So happy to have Anthony and Vicky Hayter in the building. Vicky, we actually all go to church together at Kingdom Fellowship.
That's right.
So I met you guys a while back. I've been knowing you guys for about 5 years now. It's been like 5-6 years.
Wow.
It's crazy. Yeah, time really goes by.
Wow.
Yeah, actually it's closer to 6, maybe 6-7 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So glad to have you guys. They're members of the Kingdom Fellowship family.
Yeah.
Vicky, we've actually had you on the show a few times before.
Yes.
She's a licensed therapist, family therapist,
married
right?
family therapist.
And together you guys have created a ministry out of this. Right?
Yes.
So I mean, it's amazing to see that, you know, somebody can take a personal vision and then to see a whole couple embrace that. And I think that's really key too, because Vicky's the one who's primarily in therapy, but to see you, Anthony, working along with her, and you know, to see how you guys navigate that, where it doesn't appear to be like a competing thing, but just hey, let's just make this work together.
Right.
And now you guys teach like the communication portion of the marriage ministry course for those getting married. Yeah. So I was like, you know, we've been talking about this for a long time, having you guys on live so that people can interact and ask questions. So I'm super excited to have you guys here.
Thank you for having us. We're glad we finally made this happen.
Yeah. And then, you know, brother, that's my double brother right there. Brother in Christ. So we're really excited to have this conversation. So we're going to be getting into that. Before we go there, we always cover a little current news. And feel free to chime in and give you guys thoughts. First one, you got to celebrate Kamala Harris.
Yes,
So right? Yeah, that's right. But yeah, Kamala Harris was chosen as Biden's VP, so shout out to that. And you know, I think this is just a time where we've been saying Black Lives Matter, and unfortunately, there are those in the community that have attacked Kamala Harris. And I get it, her stances on the criminal justice system, being the prosecutor, I understand the concerns, but at this point, the competition now is Biden versus Trump.
Yes.
Now, I get it. Biden's not perfect, Kamala's not perfect, okay, but are you saying they're not a better choice than Trump?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, do you really think Mike Pence and Donald Trump are better options than Biden and Kamala? And I also feel like with Biden, with Joe and Kamala, we'll have better support as far as we won't have a Betsy DeVos as Secretary of Education.
Right.
We won't have someone like Ben Carson, who should have been the Surgeon General, acting as Director of HUD. That's crazy. Yeah. What it is Trump heard urban in the title and said, Black urban? But this guy knows nothing about city planning, hammering a nail. No. So I think it's nice to know that, okay, I think with these individuals in office, we'll have better consistency as far as the people they'll surround themselves around. And I think their thought process to a mission for the country as a whole, right? So, I mean, that's just kind of some of my thoughts. But, you know, I'm hoping that we can all move past that.
Well, you think about, there is a time when just maybe about a couple of weeks ago when Trump went on the offensive against Obama.
Yeah.
And Obama's comeback was just one word: vote.
Yep. That's all you got to do.
That's all I want to say right now.
Yeah. Right, no, that's
Everybody
right.
out there.
A voteless people is a hopeless people. So people,
Absolutely.
everyone go vote. So also, we have to talk about Justice for Connor. I don't know if you guys have seen that, hashtag Justice for Connor. If you don't know the story, Connor is a young man who was, I guess he was shot recently riding his bike. Now this is horrible what happened to him. We don't excuse any kind of hate or anything that happens. So a young man was shot riding his bicycle by an older black man, I think like somewhere like in his 20s, killed him just for being white. And hate is hate, right? So we're not going to excuse any type of hatred.
Right.
But people are posting Justice for Connor, and while I think we can definitely pray for his family, because that's gotta hurt for any mother to lose such a young son. I think he had to be like 7, 8 years old.
Oh wow.
Really young. So that's horrible, and I think that speaks to gun control, and that speaks to the hate in this country.
Yes.
But to say Justice for Connor to try to blot out the fact that Breonna Taylor's killers still haven't been brought to justice.
Right.
Connor's killer is in jail right now, and he's a black man, so we know what's going to happen to him. He's going to face, and guess what? Black people are not going to say, "Oh, we have a problem with that," because we realize that's wrong.
That's wrong.
The reason why we're saying justice for George Floyd, justice for Ahmaud Arbery, justice for all these countless bodies to Breonna Taylor is because oftentimes their offenders who are police officers are getting a slap on the wrist at best, a few weeks of sensitivity training, administrative leave, and these are murders. They were all the evidence in the world showing that they should have been nowhere near Breonna Taylor's house, but they killed her in cold blood. And I feel like they think just because the boyfriend has been released because he had just do self-defense, they feel like, okay, that makes it equal. No, that doesn't make it equal. Their killers are still walking around there. George Zimmerman is right now signing Skittles and Arizona iced teas after killing Trayvon Martin. That's what we mean about, justice for these people, because they're not in jail anywhere. They're not arrested. They're not apprehended. So while we understand what happened to Connor was wrong, but justice is being served. We're not seeing that served for these other individuals. And I had to bring that up because it's been such a hot story this weekend, and I mean, and I've been seeing so many posted as in to say, that doesn't take away the fact that Breonna Taylor's killers are still out there free. So, I mean, we're not going to put that as a counter-protest. And that's what it's been used for. And I think it's ugly and it's divisive. And then the most weirdest thing I seen today was Cat Williams in his hair. I don't know what's going on there. I tried to watch the whole video. It's not making sense. Have you seen it? No. Cat Williams he has rainbow color hair. He looks like the rapper 6ix9ine.
Oh, Lord.
And I think he's trying to give like a political comedy talk to support voting for Biden and Kamala, but it's on the verge of coonery, and I'm like, I don't know if we need that help right now. But I mean, hey, but anybody saying vote is a good message, but he looks weird. I just had to bring that up. At this point, I don't want to delay because I know a lot of people have questions. I know a lot of people want to chime in. I think this is going to be a great conversation. And before we get into talking about relationships, I have to pay attention to the shirt. So there's a story behind this because they're amazing. I was like, I want to buy one of those. I guess they're for sale soon. It says, "Love your haters." If you guys don't know, Anthony and Vicky Hayter, their last name is Hayter, right? But they're not haters. They're the haters. Hayter. So, but yeah, Vicky, tell us the story about the shirts and how they were made, because that's cool.
So my daughter loves to doodle, and she would always leave little pictures and things on my bed. I'd come home, there's little things, and so I always stash them and said, "Oh, these are so great," and they're usually very inspirational. So I said, okay, well, I'm gonna do something with this one day. So she sketched this out really quickly, and I was like, I'm gonna put that on a shirt. And I did, and she has a couple other new designs out that are so awesome that we were working with the graphic artist to put them in digital format for us, and yeah.
Yeah, I like them. Yeah,
this is just one of the merch pieces
of
work that we're going to be
Well, we're definitely going to grab some here on the Nitty Gritty. We'll be rocking them on one of the shows here, so whenever they're available. So yeah, we're going to have to get on that. Yeah, I thought it was cool. I'm like, when y'all walked into the door, I'm like, oh, let's that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. You know, the couple that looks together stays together.
It's important, and that's true. The Bible says Matthew 5:44, which tells us to love your enemies. So
Yeah.
it's also a message of love that we want to make sure that we're doing as a people, especially considering the climate in which we live.
Nice, nice. So we'll get into our conversation about relationships, and you know, as we're going into that, give the people a little background on you. This is some folks is their first time being introduced to you guys, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to tell your love story for you. So maybe I can just give like a little brief on
Okay.
your names, where you're from, how you guys met, how you got to this point,
Sure.
and then we'll just start going from there.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Should I start?
Go ahead.
Okay, so we've been married 20 years, May 28, 2000. This is a funny story. So
Yes,
we
yeah.
met,
Shout that out.
I was in Anaheim, California at a NASB conference because one of my friends had convinced me to go to hang out at the conference in Religious Park. And I was in kind of last semester of my master's program. So I went, we hung out in LA, we went to the Lakers game, and we had a good time. So while I was at the NASB conference, because I used to be an engineering student, I had, of course, changed my major to nursing and all that at that point, but I hung out with some of the engineering people. So I met this guy randomly there, and I said, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm moving to Dallas. I already got a job offer. And he said, oh, you got to meet my boy because he's going to be moving to Dallas, too, for his new job. So I was like, oh, cool. So he introduces me to Anthony. We say, hey, the pleasantries, and that was it, right?
Yeah.
3 months later, I think, I went to Essence Festival. My sister convinced me to go for the second year in a row, and I was like, I'm not doing it. I did it. Last day of the conference, I'm in the mall. I see a group of guys in the corner of my eye, and I was like, I told my sister, don't even look over there. Don't say a word. We gotta go. So then this guy kept saying, psst, and I was like, don't look. So he was like, trying to get my attention. Then he says, oh, so now you want to act like you don't know me. I did the sister check. Oh, hey!
Why you like shit?
Anthony, right?
She remember my name.
I remember his name.
Oh,
Just popped right out. I
nice.
promise. We had no communication for that while, and then so I remember his name. He remembered my name, and I was like, yeah, I'm moving to Dallas next day, so I'm trying to get out of here. Blah blah blah. So I didn't have my phone number yet, and he was like, well, take my number. I took his number. I'm in Dallas.
And she told me where she was gonna stay, and that happened to be just a mile away from where my apartment was.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, hey, yeah, I'll
Walking
show you
distance.
around,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I got there, I'm bored, I'm like, dang, what am I gonna do? So I was like, I'm gonna call that guy.
2 weeks
I called
later,
him up, but I was like,
granted,
hey,
I gave her my info.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a call. She didn't call me till 2 weeks later. But
Wow.
go ahead.
Yeah. And then I called him. He was like, come over. I'm having a barbecue. So my coworkers over. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm thinking safe, coworkers. They won't do nothing stupid. So I was like a mile from where I live, like he said. And so from that point on, I was like hanging out as friends, really. I really just saw him as a friend. And he thought I liked the dude who introduced us. I was like, dude,
okay.
please. He didn't have a
That was
chance.
my boy.
He's like, oh, he thought you was going to
So
be his
he's not gonna
Dallas
cross
girl.
it.
I
Yeah,
said,
right.
you don't know. Not. You don't even know. So, yeah, from once he realized I was definitely not going to be anybody's Dallas chick, he was like, oh, okay. So he made his move. And my roommate was like, oh, he adores you. I was like, yeah, not my type. I'm so serious.
Wow.
I know. I was like, he's so nice. It's funny because types was a thing, and I think for both of us, once we realized he was nice. He was like, yeah, I thought you were cute, but you weren't my type either. And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, so somehow God obviously had his way. We obviously were each other's type.
Yeah.
And that what we wanted and needed in life was exactly what we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we dated.
We dated for about like 2 months. We got together in like September, and by no lie, by December I'd already bought the ring.
Oh, wow.
I just already knew, and I even told her, like, you know what? I'm really. I think that I'm ready to bring in the search party, call back the dogs, bring in the helicopter. We found her. We found the one. So.
He used to say that, and I would say, don't play with me.
But I didn't tell her that I had the ring.
He did not.
And then it turns out in January, I was in a training program, and my program was over, and I got deployed to the field to California. And I said, I am not going to let a ring on her finger and that diamond be the only thing keeping us together over the distance.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, the distance will if the love is real, we'll be able to make it throughout the distance, and it'll still survive. And sure enough,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
did.
wow.
Yeah.
We had one big fight that we ended up having our new song over. I invited her, and this is like in like 4th of July weekend and everything. We're doing a nice little excursion river rafting with like the company, other company folks who just do this as an annual trip. And we were going up in a bus, bumping, getting the dust.
Wait, can I say this before you say that? It's
Okay.
because that leads up to this fight. So Anthony started pressuring me to come out. Like, you need to move to California, right? And I'm like, I started my career. I'm a professional. I got this. I'm not moving. And I say, I don't see no rings on my finger. I'm not moving anywhere.
But I had the ring.
Because
I
like
did
my
have the
coworker
ring.
girls are moving out. Why aren't you moving out? And I was like, I don't see no rings.
This is before Beyonce came out with
Yeah. Single ladies, yeah.
with the anthem. So we're going on the hill on this old school bus, rickety old school bus, dust coming in, because they drop you off upriver, and then as you river raft down, you end up hitting the camp, and they'll have all your stuff there at the base camp, right?
Oh, okay.
So she said, like, why are we here? I said, because I gotta go up, to drop us off. She went, no, I mean,
Why are we here?
why are we, me and you, here, right now, doing this? I was like, wow. Because I literally, that next month, I had already coordinated with the concierge. I already got reservations for the bed and breakfast that we were gonna go, and I was gonna spring the ring on her with. I'd already had that paid for, deposited, everything. And she's like, why are we even together? So I'm like, if you don't even, you about to mess up. But I said, you know what, we gonna see. So we went and started river rafting. It was a little traumatic, and I think, that built us.
Yeah.
When people go through a little drama together, it builds that bond. She relied on me, and she saw that I was able to, keep her alive when she was trying to literally walk out. Our raft got caught on a stone, and the water was starting to come. And she was about to walk like she could walk on water.
Oh,
And I was like, wait,
where you going?
you can't go nowhere. I will push us off the rock and get me back to myself back in. And then that night, they actually. This is kind of wild. They give you these little glow necklaces and everything. Then they have, and you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But then they come out with all these lights, DJ.
Yeah.
They start partying with a generator in the background.
Dust flying.
Dust flying, and you kicking it like you're at the club in the woods.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And then they played what they played.
Al Green, let's stay together.
And while we did that slow dance, I said, I think it's our new song.
Yeah.
I think we got a new
That
song.
did it. Yeah. That
and
did
she
it.
decided to stay.
Yeah, I did. It was wonderful. And he did all he had said. He said it out. He proposed. It was beautiful. I was not expecting any of that. So yeah. So from that point on, we started a life in California. Got married. We did get married in Texas though. And then I moved to California a couple of months before the wedding, so.
So she did live with me before we got married. But
A couple months.
it's a couple months. It's all good.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. I think we got a comment from IG.
Yeah, somebody was commenting, my BFF and Faith couples laugh out loud.
Nice.
And also laughing emojis throughout the whole story.
Oh yeah. I seen people cracking up over there. So we tell this beautiful love story, and you guys been together 20 years.
20 years.
20 years
In May.
in this past May.
Yeah.
So I know you guys have a lot of experience
Oh yeah.
through these years in communicating, right?
Absolutely.
And they always say, you always ask the old heads of marriage, right? So what's the key to being married? And everybody always says communication is the key. I mean, it's like once you hit 15 plus years and you got some skin in the game, it seems like everybody says the same thing. Communication is the key. You gotta communicate, baby. You gotta talk to one another, right? So you guys can pull from experience, but then Vicky, you do this for a living. You're a licensed therapist, and then because you guys work together in ministry, you've counseled a lot of couples.
Sure.
As they go through this thing called marriage. Some of them been married for a while, some of them just getting married, thinking about getting married. So I know we have a lot of people that will fit that dynamic here, or they just can relate.
So I think the first question we want to ask to you guys, you can answer in any order. What do you think is the #1 communication barrier with couples?
I think it's validation. And I come to this just kind of over the years, becoming a therapist, understanding communication a little bit better because you have to learn it, you have to practice it too, right? Communication is a big word when you try to encompass all that goes into communication. Although we think it's simple, it's actually a lot more complex to it. Otherwise, we'd all be good, right? But what I've learned that if you don't know how to validate, you never get to the areas of problem solving and conflict resolution, right? So people always say to me, well, I'm talking to them, I'm trying to express myself, and I'm saying what I think and feel. Okay, so you're saying that, but the question is, are you then validating? So when someone expresses a need, so here is how I am feeling, this is what this has been like for me. The first thing you want to do is validate. Validation includes, 1, acknowledging what I have heard. I hear you say that I hurt you by doing such and such. And number 2, the second part of that is now you need to accept that that's their feeling, that's their experience of it. You don't need to rationalize like why you shouldn't feel that way and what my intention was not for you. First, I need to just accept that you do feel that way. And then the third thing I need to do is then be accountable for the fact that I've hurt you. And now whatever I need to do on my end to change my part of the dynamic, that's what I gotta work on. And if both persons are doing that, then your communication is gonna flow.
Yeah,
I like that.
Usually whenever, and we start off our marriage just both kind of entrenched in saying, this is what I'm gonna say, this is what I'm gonna say, this is my position. We were just butting heads to the point where like folks were getting annoyed. Like, I can't take y'all anywhere. Y'all are arguing everywhere you go.
Yes.
And so what Vicky's talking about is really profound in the fact that you stop focusing on what your comeback is. You stop focusing on, well, I can't wait to just say my thing so I can like change her position, change her idea, and help her see it my way.
Yeah.
It's about now saying, you know what? I'm gonna stop and acknowledge that I understand where you're coming from.
Yep.
And when you do that, finally you put your defenses down. And if you can put your defenses down, then true togetherness will happen.
Absolutely.
And you guys will be able to start working things to a conclusion, to a good solution and a good compromise versus just the walls are up here, the walls up there, then you guys are just throwing blows over the wall.
Absolutely.
And that's when, things get said that it's so hard to pull right back.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ashton on Facebook. Shout out Ashton Morgan.
Ashton!
Ashton, we've actually had him on the show before. Actually, we had you and Eric and Ashton. Y'all spoken on sex and relationships before on the Nitty Gritty show via an official interview. So that was cool. Ashton, we have to have you back on as well, but he said that's right. Validate, reflect.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, in order to validate, you have to do some self-reflection.
Yeah.
You really got to think through your own stuff, your own experiences, and typically your family of origin stuff, to understand how you and yourself and what you bring to that relationship dynamic, right? So a lot of times people don't even think about what is it that really upset me and why am I thinking it this way and why I'm not open to understanding what the other person is saying, because the self-reflection piece.
And you said something key there. You talked about family origin, right?
Yeah.
And I think so often when we see relationships, and I think it's important to talk relationships on the show because, and Katrina's always really big for this. I'm also like the political head, social justice, whatever. But no, relationships are important when you think about sometimes the foundation to how we solve social issues within a family,
Absolutely.
right? So then you start talking about marriage in the beginning of these families. That's key. And you said something about family origin, and I think sometimes we don't look back at what was taught to us, the learned behaviors we pick up.
Yep.
And one of the questions we had was, how to talk about in-laws and communicating maybe your family dynamic and all of that. So I would want to know some of your, because I've heard it before, but they haven't heard it. But I want to hear what you guys have to say, because you give some really great nuggets on communicating with family where to draw the line of communication,
Yeah.
things of that nature. And I know I seen firsthand that some of the couples that was in the group when we were doing the class, and just like some of the stuff we were talking about, I was like, wow, this is really powerful, dynamic stuff. So yeah, just I guess no specific question, but definitely around just that, navigating the waters of in-laws, or someone just understanding somebody's background and why they perceive the world the way they do.
Yeah, so that was a thing for us, wasn't it? And I think that was kind of probably one of the biggest parts of what we at least began to understand about how we were communicating. And that was understanding our family of origin background. So I'm from an enmeshed family. We talk about everything, right? So whatever issues we have, I mean, we're the family meeting kind of people, and so-and-so's happening, we need, and all of it's well-meaning, praying for each other and all that, but we definitely are open to express feelings, concerns, needs, right? And if that means bringing up your baggage, your whatever you have, we do that. And I think Anthony's probably more from the sweep it under the rug kind of family, keep everything.
We just don't talk very often. We never had the whole concept of family meeting. Everybody sit at the table, we have family. That never happened. So it's.
Yeah. So I think
you were loved by the fact that you got food on the table.
Yeah.
you got
That's a
clothes
lot
on
of
your
black
back.
families, though, right? That's a lot of black families. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me it was like, okay, I'm used to like bringing every concern, like we need to talk, like, and he's like, oh, you're riding me. I can't say nothing to you without feeling like I'm just making you an attack on your character. I think is what it felt like for him. If I were to say, well, I didn't like this, or I'm hurt by this, he just probably didn't know what to do with that. So once we began to understand, and probably I read a book called 5 Love Languages, helped me really look at my family of origin, and even to take a look at what I saw and observed from Anthony's family of origin. I think from that point I began to understand him even better too. It didn't get perfect from that point, but I got better about trying to recognize that, this is why it bothers him if I say this, and this. And his love language happened to be words of affirmation. And when you always telling the person what they haven't done, which my role in the family, second oldest, the oldest girl too, my job was manager, like have everybody do what they need to do. So now I'm married to a guy and I'm like, you're supposed to do this, and this. Why haven't you done it? So it was hard for him because he's second too, but he's the oldest boy. So I'm sure he's used to having his way and how he do things at his own pace and etc. So with that, I learned that, okay, so that's Anthony's family. That's how they work. I might not be able to speak about it all the time. I need to figure out where the boundaries are for me. I remember trying to tell him one time in the airport, like, when I'm in your family outfit, I'm on pins and needles. Because you guys like, it's bickerish, right? And so he snapped on me so bad at that airport. And I was like, breathe. So that's where I learned self-soothing. I got on the plane, this lady was like, you're so beautiful.
This is before I read the book.
Right, he hadn't read the book at that point. She was like, you're so beautiful. And I knew what she meant. She was like, you took that like a champ. You did not go off on him, and I did. So then I learned about boundaries, right? Because I get on the plane, and Anthony goes, and we had separate seats, so I was right behind him, right? Mm-hmm. So he like talks to somebody next to him. That's my girlfriend back there. My wife at that point. Can you change seats with her? And I was like, I don't want to sit next to him. I don't think he knew. I don't do that. I might bust you in the mouth right now. You want me to sit back here. He didn't know that, but I was like, I grew up around a lot of boy cousins and girls, so it's like, yeah. So anyway, I said, okay, this dude want me to sit next to him. Then I learned that was kind of my style. I'm the timeout person. Like, I need to walk away, and I don't need to sit next to you after we just had a blowout. Give me a minute. But we learned from those experiences that in-laws and how we understand each other's family life. Because I know my family they would like, well, he should be doing this and he should be doing that. And I can't believe that. And I had to get out of that mode of then saying what you should be doing. Because I'm like, my dad did this and he washed my car and he kept it filled up and he always kept our line. He worked and he cooked. So, it was, I'm sure.
But there's all those, there's two sides of every coin. There's her dad and her mother are divorced. So hearing a divorcee telling my wife all the things that she need to do sounds kind of crazy to me. Like, if you know so much, then why aren't you married? Okay? and her Vicky listening to all that in her ear and then regurgitating it right back to me. I was like, the Bible says that, and it's biblical, that you are to leave your mother and father and cleave to your significant other, so that now you're a new union. And as part of that is realizing that all the stuff that I'm hearing from my sister, my mom, that is nice, and I'm gonna take whatever advice, whatever nuggets I can take from it. But right here, this is what really counts. They can talk all they want, but eventually they're gonna have to talk to a brick wall. And we actually had to have a session where we told Vicky ended up having to tell her mother, her dad, her sister, y'all need to just get out of our life. Because we trying to do
that. Life, but
well, she said y'all's business ain't helping, so y'all need to just shut up and let us work this out. And it essentially that's how they took it, because
He gave it the raw. That's
I get the raw filtered version.
This is the new version.
Right.
You said you got a question over there?
session.
Oh, questions over here. And so like, and one thing I do like too with this conversation, I love the transparency, because so often, you know, even like, especially like married groups, especially like in the church, people try to give this. Sometimes they try to give off this impression like, oh, we got it together because we reached marriage and there's no issue. And then I think it sets up even those dating up for failure, because you're looking for the perfect person, right? But no two people are going to be perfect.
Right.
No one person can be perfect, right? So then you come into unions that start off imperfect, and there's things that you have to go through to get to this cute thing where you get to wear matching shirts and relationship goals.
Talk about 20 years.
Yeah. You know, people are like, ooh, I want that. But then it's like, oh, but do I want to go through some of the things they just said? Right? So I think that's important. We got a question. Actually, Katrina wrote this in, but I think it's really good. Kind of going back to when you guys were talking about validation. She brings up some good points. She said, how long do you need to validate someone? Is it possible that someone can hold on to something too long, like apologizing for years for the same thing? And we see this a lot. Like if you talk about infidelity, the more visible wrongs, right? But it's like at some point, if you are going to stay together and someone decides to forgive the person for that, it doesn't have to be that. It could be a really bad argument. It could be someone did something really jacked up with the money. Who knows, right? It could be so many different things. But at what point is it like, are we going to move on together, or I have to keep on reliving that past hurt?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like with validation, a lot of times, so you're saying, you're admitting, like, I realize I hurt you, I harmed you, and with such deep attachment injuries like infidelity or whatever, that takes some time, and it often takes some professional work. But one key element of that, moving on, is forgiveness. If you're not fully forgiving and working on that forgiveness process, and you finding that you constantly need that person to validate, and you don't have signs that they are still committing the same thing, the same offense, then it sounds like there needs to be some professional help to help you work through the forgiveness process with your partner, so that now you can rebuild the trust, say in the infidelity situation, and typically trust in the foundation of relationship, period. So.
That's good. And then let me read a couple of comments. So we have Phoebe Moniz. She's saying, Phoebe. She's saying hashtag Team Hater. I love it. We have Herman. That's shout out to my dad. Shout out Clarksville, Tennessee. If you're watching right now, I know we got a lot of people on the live. Shout out your city right now. We'll shout you out. Shout out where you at. We love to do the shout outs on the Nitty Gritty Show. So shout out Clarksville, Tennessee. Shout out Maryland in the building. We know that for sure. So we got Herman on the line. He's also saying that starts from the family always, when we were talking about family and it kind of being that core. He said love, wisdom, communication, values, beliefs, even politics. And then we're talking about put everything on the table. So being able to communicate on all those different levels, right? And then shout out to Herman and Denise. They've been married for 34 years now, as of last weekend, August the 9th.
All right.
So, once again, a little bit of some wisdom. We got another conversation from the floor, since we have you here. because I've seen some therapists give their take. I would like to see one that I know personally give their take. But they're saying, what are your thoughts on Will and Jada's entanglement? Since we kind of just briefly brought up, we don't have to spend a whole lot of time there, but just briefly, what's the thoughts there on some of that, especially coming from a therapist and then two people who have been married for a long time and just seeing some of the weirdness going on. Y'all been married roughly around the same amount of time. So, yeah, you know, I don't know if I would call that relationship goals anymore, Jada and Will.
Not what I'm working toward.
Yeah.
That's funny because as a therapist, I've had couples come to me who are swingers, and they don't stay very long because when we get down to the nitty gritty of things, the idea is that at some point you had to know that somebody might step out and end up liking somebody more than you. Like, you were okay with bringing in this person as long as you were aware. But now you were aware, but when they do it behind your back, now you're upset because you weren't then brought in on it. And I'm like, you know what? Let's talk about really the fact that you made it okay from the beginning. Then you knew what you were getting. So if that's you, if you are under that understanding, then you kind of left with what you came up with.
Yeah, you got to think about like Abraham and Sarah. Whenever Sarah's like, you know what? I can't give you a baby.
Let me go get Hezekiah.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
was her name?
Hagar.
Yeah.
And then she was like, she brought that on. And all of a sudden, they had Ishmael. And when she started seeing that Abraham was like, oh, he was kind of cool with Ishmael. That's his son, finally. He's been waiting for. And she started getting real upset about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was, but she brought that on herself. She shouldn't have ever said, hey, I can't do it, go ahead here. She opened the door, and that's kind of where you almost gotta lay in the bed you made because you create that. And I think Will and Jada, they've always had, I heard, this kind of open relationship. So the fact that it all kind of blowed up in his face is something that is a self-fulfilling prophecy where they created that, opened that door to. They've probably been doing that for a while. It's just now the media got a hold of it because Jada started going like to different events and go on the red carpet with them.
Booed up. Yeah. I mean, like real tight. I don't know if I'm gonna let my girl hung up like that in the
That
picture.
won't happen here, I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
You don't get down like that.
And I'm curious because you said that you've dealt with clients before that come in there, the swingers, and because the common thing being put out by certain celebrities that say that they have these open relationships, and I think it's not that we should follow what celebrities do, but we live in a world that's so impressed by fame, right, and celebrity, and these become the driving forces on culture and what people think are manageable in a relationship, right?
Right.
So. What do you see as the common reason why people even accept that in the first place? Is it always just purely selfish or in the mood, in the moment? Or do you see that maybe one person wants it more than the other one? So the one is always just kind of compromising and not really with it in these situations? Because they claim that these folks are more so the better communicators. Because if I can communicate to you my sexual desires with someone else, we can communicate anything. But then that doesn't always seem to be the truth.
Right.
And I'm not a professional family therapist, right? But see, at least you are. So now when I say something, I'm like, hey, you go back to the Nitty Gritty show, and we had the haters on. This is what the professionals have to say. So, no, I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on, just briefly on, do you even know why they even start that in the first place? Like,
I gathered and worked with a few that I've worked with, and that is there was insecurity on somebody's part that they can even believe that someone would be completely faithful. So instead of putting my heart out there enough to just only believe that only you can be faithful, I will compromise that. And typically there's been some type of trauma there. There's usually been something that makes them not trust that no one can be faithful. So I'm just gonna put that out there like that from the get-go, and we'll just work it together like this. And then that way I won't get hurt by knowing that, oh, I knew you were going to do that anyway. And they still end up hurt.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's good to know, because I know a lot of people are always trying to act like they somehow communicate better, but I'm like, we see these folks getting divorced all the time, so something's missing. And the communication can be that great, yeah.
Yeah, so if they communicated that great, then why is it that you're now surprised if they're like now really locking up with somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all booed up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why
good
are you
point.
surprised?
And we got a bunch of questions. I've seen some more pop up here. I got some more shout. Shalonda Graham, shout out from Atlanta. We're really the Cali crew. That's what's up.
Yeah.
So we kind of got Cali and Atlanta in the building. That's cool. I love it. Another question, and I gotta ask this one because money is such a big deal these days. I'm gonna get to that, but I gotta talk about money. So that seems to be a hard conversation for a lot of people to have. And then what we see statistically is that you see a lot of couples get divorced over money.
Right.
But we know that communication is such a big part of how a relationship works.
Yeah.
Right.
So how do people have the conversation about money? Like what kind of mindset do you need to be in? What are some, I guess, some cues or some good practices to have? Because money is a very touchy subject, right?
Yeah.
You have some guys that think, oh, she just want me for my money, she a gold digger. You know, or like, you know, women's only goal is to get at that. But then some women, they have their own, but they want to know, are you responsible?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So it's, you know, how do you engage in the conversation, I guess, without creating too much offense, but at the same time, getting to the nitty gritty of it all.
Yeah.
And knowing, well, where are we? You know, are we going to have a roof over our head? We have a good time. Are we going to be able to afford things? You know, like,
Right.
how are we going to go about life providing and building? Right? Because that's an important thing, man or woman. So, how do we have the finance talk, the money talk? Because that's a hard one, right?
So I'm gonna say that starts premaritally, like, right? So I remember it came up in our premarital conversations, and I think Anthony and I had a basic understanding that we need to pay bills. We both agreed about how much we pay tithes. Like, we had some basic understanding, but what we did not have is communicating who has the better skills at managing money. Anthony, like I said, being the oldest guy in his sibling order, was used to running his money, not having a manager, my role in my family, to say, I need to keep up with this, and this, and his personality is not to be very structured. And where I am very structured and I like to keep up with things. And so once we stop bumping heads about skills, right, and power and decision making, like you can't just go out and make these impulsive decisions and then we suffer the consequences later. It's like we had some really trial and error with that, would you say?
Yeah.
Some tough moments.
Yeah, but there's a saying, you know, romance without finance ain't nothing but a damn nuisance. So, given that, there are times when we've been blessed with a lot, and then we've been times where we've been on the lean side,
Oh, yeah.
and that communication is really what kept us
out.
going throughout, knowing
Absolutely.
that even though, and actually during that lean time, we actually had an opportunity to get closer to God and really lean not on our own understanding, our own abilities, but on the Lord providing. But we did it together.
Yeah.
And again, being able to have those conversations and know that it's key to being able to get through it together by having these conversations of, okay, this is what this is the plan that we have to get ourselves out of the hole.
Yeah.
And we know it's bleak right now, but there's a plan, and we're all on the same page that this plan is going to make us, and there might be, you know, plan A, plan B, plan C, all the way to plan Z.
Yeah.
But at least you guys, as long as you're working, communicating together, then that's where, you know, love never fails. You'll be able to see it through thick and thin.
Yeah. I do say that there were some really hard moments for us in that.
Yeah.
And I do believe that coming to this place of acknowledging what our skills were, what were the pitfalls, and those were the toughest conversations for us to get through.
Yeah.
Is understanding what the pitfalls were and the factors were that were involved in getting and putting us in such dire, say, financial situations at different points in our marriage. But I do think that as we grew in that understanding, the more we're on the same page about it, we get better and better.
Yeah. We even walked through and experienced bankruptcy where we had to file bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
A lot
And
of
we had
couples don't make it through that.
yeah, we had a business,
Yeah.
an ice cream shop that didn't do well. We opened up a second store and we
Yeah.
thought we were doing all right, and then
It's
it
a
ended
tough
up, you know,
moment.
in 4 years we had to close down both of those shops and to avoid that mall owner going after our house, going after all of our personal debt. We had to file bankruptcy just so that we can get absolved from mall owners, leasers. They make you sign a 5-10 year lease. So
Yeah.
you know when you done, and you close the door, but they still want the rest of. Oh no, you only in year 2 of 5, so you need to give us more of that change, and we'll just go after your house. So don't worry about it. We filed bankruptcy to be able to avoid all that, but that meant all of our credit went to crap, and
Yeah.
we couldn't. But you know, God be the glory. We were able to still buy a house a couple of years later. So it was one of those things where we just had to trust. We had to trust God and trust each other that we would be able
That's
to.
exactly what happened.
get
Because
ourselves
for
out.
me, I was like, this is the thing that you would I never thought I'd experience because I manage money well. I always have from a little girl. So I was like, who am I married to? Like, why am I here? And I think I did a lot of blaming of, you didn't run that business well. And if you had the same skill set that I had, you would have ran that business better and it would have been successful. And I had to get out of that. No, there were many factors involved, but for me, I'm like, me go through this? And so I just put a lot of blame on him. Yeah.
And you know what? And like once again, I have to shout out the transparency because once again, I think these are the real conversations that people need to see with marriage, right?
Yeah.
Someone who they're 20 years happy, loving each other, but then to understand the journey
Oh,
of what
Yeah.
marriage is, right?
Yeah.
What living life in general is a journey. And then too often people would go through situations like the ones that you've mentioned, right?
Yeah.
And they'll say, you know what? See, that's a sign from God. This ain't for me. Right?
Right.
That's a sign from God. It ain't working. See, he's not the one because of this.
Peace, I'm out.
But then it's kind of like you'll never get to the day that you're living right now
Yeah.
unless you can find a way to work through that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
knowing that communication is not just a singular mode. There's so many various like pieces to that, and even that's only just a part of the totality of marriage, right? And going through life together.
Oh yeah.
So to hear that you guys went through that, and to be here together, loving and joking, able to laugh at these situations, and be like, hey, you know, that's a testimony to
At
the
this
journey.
point, right.
Yeah, laugh at this point, right?
Yeah.
But that's a testimony to the journey, and I'm hoping that, you know, for those who are watching, if you gather anything, gather that, because I think that's the thing that inspires me the most, having that conversation. And I think for those who have been married a long time, I think it's those stories, I think, that would help those younger people that you're trying to help out, right? You know, just don't say it was always good and tell your best stories. No, tell the real stories,
Right.
so that people have real expectations when they go into marriage.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's amazing. Shout out to Marvin. Shout out to Louisiana in the building. You know what I'm saying? I know you're out here, Saints fan. We won't blame you for that. It's no, who that and all that. It's in the blood. I get it. But no, that's important. And then we're running. It's already 8:48. We're already short on time. So I'm gonna ask one more question. And I'm gonna go here because you're kind of already leading us there.
Okay.
So we gotta have you back soon, sooner than later. Like not like next year, but like we have to work it out like within the next 2-3 months.
Okay.
Like we need to do this quarterly or something, because this is really good, and we only touched like only so little of what we want to ask. Yeah. So one, because you guys talk about like going through bankruptcy, you talk about just communicating and then like trying to deal with some harsh things, and I think we're realizing as a society how important mental health is, right? And one of the questions that we had was, you know, what are like some common signs that a significant other may be dealing with mental issues, anxiety, or depression, and you know, like maybe supportive services to send someone to. How do you guys work through that? And because I mean, when you go through money problems, when your money is shot, I know I've been there, right? Your money is shot, it can send you into depression.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
outside of whatever else you may be depressed about.
Right.
It's just something about, especially as a man, when a man feels like he can't provide. And me and my dad had like a real conversation about that. And some men, because we don't know how to say, I'm hurt right now, I'm down right now, it comes out via anger or, you know, isolation,
Yeah.
right? Because really what it is we're depressed that we can't give our kids this, or maybe things didn't work out for our kids this way, we feel like we're a failure to them,
Right.
and then men withdraw, right?
Yep.
And then women will sometimes like lash out, be like, I can't, like, kind of like what you're saying, like, I can't believe this is happening to me. I brought in all these skill sets and all this ability. You know, let this go.
Right.
Yeah. Is this the best? This is the best what life has to offer with me, me and this man.
Or I can do bad by myself, like
Yeah.
used to
So
say.
how do you communicate depression and anxiety?
Right.
You know, I mean, I guess we'll close up with that question, and then we'll do some little shout outs and stuff before we leave. But I think we'll leave with that one. But I want to know your thoughts on that, because that's a big thing that someone, even probably watching this, or people who review this, they're going through that right now. It's a very real thing in relationships.
Absolutely.
So how do you deal with
And
depression,
particularly
anxiety,
right
and all
now,
that?
this
Yeah,
pandemic and everything.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with this pandemic.
Right. So
Yeah.
here's the thing: with you have, say, a partner, your spouse, whatever, you suspect they have a mental health problem, say depression or anxiety. One, don't you be the one to diagnose it. Be the one to know what the signs and symptoms are to encourage them to get help. But to label them, you must be this, you must be that, when really part of it might be just the way we're communicating and they feel stuck or withdrawn, right? I think a lot of times, say with anxiety, we find that people are unable to relax. They're unable to keep focus, things of that nature. They're not able to sleep. I think we take it so personal, and we need to first check the health of the individual. So I can tell it's like, let's say when we're going through really tough space in life, when things are really busy with our kids and just everyday working, I have to check in with Anthony because I'm like, you've been pretty snappy, or you've been really irritable, or and so I ask the question, are you stressed? What's going on at work, right? So then I can open up a dialogue about what he must be feeling, right? And because I'm the one who will communicate what I'm feeling, I'm more apt to say, so I feel so overwhelmed, like it feels like I can't breathe some days, or I can't even sleep because I've been so exhausted from so many things going on. So when you begin to open up on a daily basis about kind of what's going on for you, asking the questions instead of labeling, blaming, you have to be in a place to be open to hearing and then referring your partner to whether you go. I think a lot of times it helps to go with them, because you're the one who's going to need to be to understand what they're going through and provide that support. There's one friend I know who started something called Mental Health Strong, and it's about helping couples who are married, and it's a Christian-based organization, but helping them understand a partner who is diagnosed with a mental illness and how to be a support for that individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's lonely.
And I would say it's also on that other person who's witnessing this, right? To be able to now, when Vicky tells me that she needs time, that she's about to lose it because she almost can't breathe because the stress level is so high. For me to take a moment and actually understand that, and then give her space. Take the kids, take the chores of the household, cooking, doing a couple meals, cleaning this, doing that, and give her that time to for her to recover, relax, sleep, get a nap, all those things. It's really on the other person to, and if it's something even more serious, to be able to say, okay, yeah, I'll go with you, and we'll go and seek professional advice.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's really good. I mean, like I said, I wish this conversation going for 2 hours. But we keep it to an hour. But we gotta have you guys back. We'll have to get you on the soapbox, all of that. Because you guys have so much to give. And once again, shout out to the transparency, because it's one thing to come in as a professional and almost act as if you're removed. Like, well, this is for you guys here, but we're perfect. Right. But they come in as, no, we're just facilitating a conversation and we're part of the journey with you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that approach to marriage and marriage counseling. And everyone always talks about black love, but the only way to make black love strong, you have to keep it real about what that journey of love looks like, right?
Yeah.
And you guys have done that and more over expectation in this conversation. I really commend you guys
Thank you.
Yeah. Because even I was learning a lot as we're talking, right? Even Herman was like, real talk, depression is a real thing in a lot of relationships and a huge obstacle to bear. And you know, and people don't want to talk about when someone was depressed in a relationship and how they went through it and the fighting that went through.
Right.
And for you guys to be so transparent and give real, you know, actionable advice to couples that are viewing this and will view this is really amazing. So I really appreciate it. Real quick, where can people find you if they want to ask questions? If they want to, you know, maybe see you professionally for family counseling, let folks know where they can find you or where they can see you, and then we'll repost as well.
Absolutely. So you can find me at my website, emergelc.com, www.emergelc.com. You can also find me on IG at Vicky Hayter. You can also find me on Therapy for Black Girls and Psychology Today. And even if you Google Vicky Hayter, Hayter, you'll find me.
Awesome. And then if you ever join the kingdom, let's say, Anthony, where can they find you? Because brothers may just, they may not want to go straight to Vicky. They be like, they want to ask another brother. Because you know, they won't ask either. They'll get in the DMs and say, hey man, you know, I saw you talking about relationships, man. You know, they'll just say it. They're not gonna ask. They're like, hey man, I saw you talking about relationships. You know, so where can they find you, bro? Because someone might reach out.
I'm on Facebook, Anthony Hayter, and I can't even actually remember what my IG handle is.
I was like,
you know what? I tagged it on IG. I put it out there because it was like Ant.
Yeah,
it was like
numbers. Hey or something.
It's on there. It's on there somewhere. I think
it might
like
be Ant 433.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. So we'll get that out officially. But no, thank you. And then also, you know, thank you all for watching the Nitty Gritty show today. We really appreciate you. Before we leave, I gotta throw out some shout outs. You know, always gotta hit up birthdays. Happy birthday, Greg Matthews, 7 Blackmans. Happy birthday, Raphael Harden, Daryl Robinson, Brian Haskins, Rashawn Ray, Frat, I see you. Deborah Gibbs. Also, shout out to my homie, my ace. He gonna be out there at the wedding and everything. My boy Jason Carver, his birthday was on the 14th. So had to shout out those birthdays. And because we've been in the mood of the 90s. And we've been talking about love and music. I feel like the 90s R&B had some of the best.
The best.
You know what I'm saying?
Hands down.
Right. Shout out Cleveland. I see you, Jason Garrett. You know what I'm saying? Shout out, he said good stuff. I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation. If you have questions, feel free to still comment on this video or on YouTube. And I'll be happy to forward this over to Vicky. We're going to have Vicky and Anthony back on again.
I want to just shout out our Cali crew too, because I think had it not been for that early life group couples, about 10 couples we knew from early on living in California together, most of our marriages wouldn't have made it had we not had that kind of support and prayer for one another.
And that's important.
Thank you.
Accountability and having a group of peers that like in the same stage of life with you.
Yeah.
Right?
Not your single friends, your single boy, or your single ladies. But actually having other married couples, because
I see some praying hands going on.
So a lot of times the problems and the issues you run into, you ain't alone. You find out that every single other couple has that same problem, and it's so much comforting it's so much comfort to be able to know that, hey, we're all in this struggle together. It's work. We all know it's work.
And because we're double brothers and sisters and stuff in here, we'll be using you guys as that accountability for me and Kat.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely. We've been reaching out to haters. We love our haters. Like, please help us.
Go haters.
So look, I'm gonna leave them with a bop. This is Case from his 1999 album, Personal Conversation, Happily Ever After. I gotta play it from the beginning because he talks about proposing in this song.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I wanted to play this one on the end, but once again, like having you guys on has been great. It was an awesome conversation. I can't wait to repost it to YouTube. And we'll have to find a way to get you guys back again.
We love it. Thank you so much.
It's your boy, David Costa. Kat, this is us right here. Together we are the Nitty Gritty Show. Anthony and Vicky, once again, thank you guys for having us. This was amazing. Our conversation is about communication and relationship. Everybody on Facebook, YouTube, IG, we appreciate you guys. We out. Peace in a bottle of hair grease. Y'all be safe out here during COVID, man. We out here.
Yes.
Love you haters.